idea. It's an idea that when you think about it, you go, oh my God, I would love that. And then right behind that thought, there's this like clutch that grabs it. And you say, oh my gosh, there's no way. When you think about this idea, you think about everything that you've accomplished up to this point, your success, your achievements, your security. You think about your security and you realize how risky this idea is. What do? How do you determine whether or not the risk is worth it or just to stay where you are? Well, today I'm going to share with you, I got to look and see, 5 ways. I had to remember how many possible tips do I have to give you today. 5 ways to determine whether or not to, if the risk is too great and to stay where you are, or if the risk is worth it and to go for it. If you're liking what you're hearing, make sure that you drop some hearts and thumbs up and the emojis in the comment section so I know that this is serving you. And if you want these training notes, my training notes, to be able to physically have them in your hand, to be able to read over this and highlight things, and to get information about my upcoming masterclass where I will be sharing the 5-step success formula, 5-step proven spiritual success formula to create a life that you love. Put the words "go big" in the comment section and my team will make sure that we get that to you. So my name is Felicia Searcy, and it is my joy to be your partner in believing. I have had the honor of serving thousands of people around the world, building out lives that they love. And it is my joy to be here with you today. Your dream is my passion. And I'm seeing some folks, Luce and Severina and Adele, and I thought I saw Brian. Yeah, there you are. All right, so yay, so good to have you all here. And whether you're watching this live or watching the replay, my desire is to serve you and to be able to evaluate whether or not whatever the initiative is, whatever the dream, whatever the desire, is it worth it? Is it worth putting everything that you've built at risk? So that's what we're going to get into today. So you know this. And I can look at the people that are watching this and know that each one of you has experienced this in some way, shape, or form. You have an idea. There's something that drops in. And it's like it's been hanging out in the peripheral of your conscious awareness. And it's one of those moments where you let the veil down a little bit and this idea just kind of sneaks in. And there's this tingle inside of you when you hear the idea and let yourself acknowledge the idea, and you can feel yourself getting excited. It's like, oh my God, how much fun would that be? Or how great would that be? Or, oh my gosh, what if that really could happen? And right behind that idea, it's like there's this, I don't remember when I was a kid, we used to watch cartoons. And there was this show where I think it might have been Bugs Bunny, where Donald Duck would be out on the stage and there would be like this hook that would just hook him around the neck, phew, just pull him back. And that there's this thought that will jump in right behind that thought of, oh my God, what if this is really possible? What if you could really do that? That will want to hook you right back and say, are you out of your mind to even consider it? Think of everything that you've accomplished up to this point. Look at how easy things are right now, or look at what you have to lose. Look at what you potentially could put at risk if you really do this thing, if you really go for this dream, for this possibility. And so there you are, weighing it. Do I ignore what appears to be the voice of caution, the voice of logic, the voice of reason? That voice can sound very reasonable. Oftentimes that voice shows up in the voices of the people around you that, if you even utter it, may be saying, what are you thinking? Are you really going to put everything that you've built, your stability, your safety, your security, You're really going to put all that at risk for this thing that you have no idea, number one, how to do it, because if it's big enough, you don't know how to do it. Or number two, you have no guarantee that this thing's going to be successful. What do you do when you've got that internal battle? So drop some thumbs up if you've ever heard this conversation going on inside of you. And you may have this conversation going on inside of you right now. Again, I mean, I can look at some of the people that are watching, and I know that you've had this conversation going on. You know, Emily, I know that you're taking some bold moves, and Luce and Brian and Adele, and those are the names that I'm able to see right now. And Emily, it is so good to see you too. So how do you know whether the risk is too great or you decide, nope, I'm going for it? Well, I'm going to give you 5 ways to be able to evaluate whether or not to stare down the fear, stare down the risk, and go for it, or just, you know, appreciate where you are and stay where you are. All right. Tip number 1, look at the cost if you don't go for it. Most people will evaluate the cost of going for something. Excuse me. So few people evaluate the cost of not going for it. I love what Bob Proctor says, where he says, most people tiptoe through life hoping to arrive safely at their death. Think about that. I mean, you watch people live so cautiously, so carefully, so protectively. And when you think about it, what is it that you're really protecting? Now, I'm not saying to, you know, go do something foolish like try to cross the interstate or go stand out in the middle of the interstate, not to expect to get hit by a car. But when this idea of something so alive making drops in, it warrants your attention. And so give it what I call the deathbed test, that you're lying on your deathbed and you're reviewing, you're reviewing your life. There's a video out, I think the guy's name is Prince U. Severina, I can see that you're here. If you can find out the name of the guy, it's No Regrets. It's the one that I show at my 3-day event and at the workshops that I do. But he talks about a hospital study where people were, you know, right there at their last breath and talking about what they regret. And the vast majority of them did not talk about their regrets of what they did do. Their regret was what they didn't do. So when you think about this bold idea that dropped in, and you know it's bold because number one, you don't know how to do it. You know, an idea that you know how to do, it's just not that bold. It might be a fun, it might be, you know, make you happy. It might be something that makes life a little easier, but it's not bold. A bold idea is an idea where your brain is starting to like search around, try to figure out, I don't know how to do this. You know, how do I do this? That's a bold idea. A bold idea is an idea where you say, oh my gosh, I could potentially lose this. You know, this is something I could lose if I go for this. That's a bold idea. So when you think about going through life without going for that bold idea, and your life is coming to a completion, and it's really interesting because I had planned this Facebook Live long before, you know, I planned my topics out because I want there to be a rhythm to it. I want there to truly be value. I'm listening to what it is that you all need, and mainly listen to the questions that my clients bring in, because knowing that if they have questions, you all will have, those of you that are not my clients will have the same questions. But I planned this out before this experience of the last week and a half when my older sister made her transition. It was June 30th that my sister came to a completion in this life. And it's making this so much more poignant for me, realizing I've now have two siblings that have crossed over into the invisible realm. I don't want to say that I lost them because they're still here in the spiritual realm, but I don't want to digress. But it's, yes, everyone dies, but not everyone lives. Prince EA. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but that's where in his video, Everybody Dies, but Not Everybody Lives. He talks about the hospital study. And I'm realizing now, especially as my sisters came into completion with her life, and it was relatively unexpected, that we all die. Just like Prince EU said, we all die. The question is, are you going to live? And truly living means that you're willing to take risks, that you're willing to step out and take those bold risks, because that's where you're required to reach for something so much greater than just you and the physical. You discover something so much greater than you, and you develop skills and capabilities that lie dormant. You don't have need for those skills and capabilities if you're living a life that you already know how to do. So tip number one to determine, is it worth the risk or is the risk just too great? Give it the deathbed test. When you are drawing your last breath and you think about that idea and you didn't go for it, do you have regrets? Are you regretting not going for it? And what are you losing? What is it that you're losing if you don't go for it? If you choose the safe path? It may be that you lose your sense of confidence for staying safe. It may be that you lose the exhilaration for going for something so much bigger and bolder. It may be that you lose the result that will come from that bold step. When I think about my husband and I, we're in the process of buying a home. We're going to close on the home. This next week will probably be the last week that you'll see me broadcast from this setting. And in 2 weeks from now, we'll be in our new home. And when I think about, when we were in Tennessee, and we had it really good in Tennessee. We had a very successful business that my husband ran. I had a work that I loved that was, doing well. We had a community. There was really on the surface, there was no reason for us to pick up and move, to sell our business and to pick up and move. I mean, there were some extenuating circumstances that were going on, but to the logical mind, people could not figure out why we were leaving Tennessee and moving to California when there was like this exodus heading in the opposite direction. But as I'm sitting around and looking at what we've created out here over the last 5 years and what we're moving into as our next bold step into a new house, I am so grateful for that couple, my husband and I, who actually 6 years ago made the decision to risk what we had, which was good, to build out even greater. I think it was Jim Collins who once said that good is the enemy of great. So give it the deathbed test. If you don't go for it, what will you lose? And will you have regrets? What are the regrets you're going to have? All right. Grace Blue Rock. You were in my head today. I was thinking about you and how you were doing. Oh, please let me know how you're doing. It is just so good to see your name and your face. That I missed you, Grace. All right. So number 2, how do you determine whether or not the risk is worth it? Number 2, look at what the rewards will be if you go for it and you're successful, or even if you go for it and it doesn't happen all the way that you want it, but it just happens a little bit. So ask the question, if I knew I would be successful, if I knew success was guaranteed, if success was truly guaranteed, would I love this? And what are the rewards that I will gain as a result of going for it? Again, most people will evaluate the cost if it fails. Very few people evaluate the cost if you don't go for it. And very few people are really able to see, yeah, but what if it really is wildly successful? What if this really does work out? The more you're able to formulate those images, the more they start coming alive in your body, the more you identify with those images. Because remember, as I share regularly, you will never outperform the way you see yourself. The more you're able to see it in the form, in this remarkable faculty of your imagination, in the form that you would love, then the more you build your believing, and the more in love the more you fall in love with that possibility. Y'all, learning to fall in love with an intention, learning to fall in love with a desire, it's one of the most courageous things that you can do. So many people dull their senses, dull that desire down, because that's when you have to face the risk. You know, if it's a burning desire and a bold move, by the very nature of it being a bold move means that there is a high risk factor. So most people won't even let themselves imagine something more expansive, won't even let themselves ask, would I really love this? To even be in that question. It's a bold move just to ask the question. So feel my arms around you as your partner in believing right now, supporting you and asking, what if I were wildly successful at this? What would wild success look like? Let yourself imagine the rewards of going for it. Here's the other piece that I want to help you remember. The very fact that you have the idea means that you have everything within you to bring it into the facts of your life. Now, doesn't mean that you know how to do it right now. And next week, I'm going to talk about a 5-point test to determine, whether or not it's your ego or inspired insight. And one of those questions is, will this cause me to grow? Realizing that if it's truly a bold idea that causes you to kind of catch your breath a little bit, you don't know how to do it. If you knew how to do it, it wouldn't be a bold idea. There would be no risk. There's no risk when you know how to do everything. So when you let yourself imagine a possibility that you don't have a clue on how to get there, but when you think about it and you really see, oh my gosh, these are the possible rewards. This is what can possibly happen. And you feel into it and you say, oh, I love that. You want to pay attention to that. That's the voice of inspired insight. That's the voice of spirit. And the more you're able to follow that voice, the more confident you become in knowing your ability to be able to hear the action steps and take those action steps successfully. So let yourself imagine the reward. So look at the cost if it doesn't work, if you don't go for it. And then let yourself imagine the rewards if it does work. What potentially can happen if this initiative, this idea that takes your breath away, truly can be successful. All right, so this is landing at all. First of all, if you've ever done this before, and I know you have. I mean, I can see the names that are on here. I know every single one of you have done this sort of thing at some point in time. And life is not done with you. It's, continuing to invite you into a greater version of yourself by inviting you into risk. So this is landing at all. If you think about this idea and you think about the rewards and there's a part of you that goes, oh, just some thumbs up. That there's something inside of you that's like, oh, wow, I would really love to do that. Put some thumbs up in the comment section and some hearts so we can celebrate your courage and your willingness to think beyond the risk to the possibility. All right, so Tip number 3. Now, remember, what we're doing is evaluating whether or not the risk for your dream or initiative is worth it, or should you just stay right where you are? Should you play it safe? And I get it that I'm probably steering this in a particular direction just because I have my own beliefs around the reason, the purpose of that risky desire. And you are the highest authority. You know what truly is right for you. And also to be here as your partner in believing, to help you not let fear drive your boat. It's Jim Carrey, fear is going to be a player. And fear most often will disguise itself as practicality. What you call, we disguise fear and say that we're being practical. And a risky move, it's not practical. In the world of facts, it's not a reasonable, practical thing to do. So how do you know whether or not to go for it? So number 1, look at the cost if you don't go for it. Give it the deathbed test. And number 2, look at the possibilities that could happen if you really were wildly successful. So as you're doing these things, drop some thumbs up and hearts in the comment section. And if you've got any questions as I'm going through this, drop those in the comment section as well, so I can address those as we go through this, whether you're watching this live or the replay, because we go back and look at the comments. And if you want my training notes, so you can go through these and have these physically in your hand, and you want information about my upcoming masterclass, put the phrase "go big" in the comment section, and we'll make sure we get that information to you. All right, step number 3. Take one step toward your dream. So often people get frozen because they're afraid that if they do anything at all toward it, it's like now they're committed. Well, in the beginning, let yourself experiment a little bit. You're experimenting in mind, and experiment with the action. Oftentimes people can fall in love with the concept of something, but when they really get into it, it's like, you know what? This is really not for me, not so much. But now they feel like they're stuck, that they've got to see it through. I'm giving you permission to experiment with it. Give yourself the opportunity just to play with it, to experiment with it a little bit. By setting a goal along the way. I was going to say a smaller goal. It's not a smaller goal. It's a goal along the way to the big audacious goal, and start taking some steps toward it. You're going to do something with your time anyway, right? And if you're not doing something big and bold, you're doing the status quo. And again, the status quo is really good, but why not carve some time out and invest in testing whether or not this desire, this initiative is really something you want to bring your full being to. So identify some beginning action steps where you can begin to put on what it feels like to live into this possibility. Give it a period of time. Give it 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. For this period of time, I'm going to experiment with this. I'm going to feel into what it feels like to live into this as a new bold venture in my life. And I'm going to begin to take some action steps toward it. And at the end of the 90 days or 60 days or 30 days, whatever the time limit is, at least now you know. At least you know that, all right, I did that experiment and not so much. You don't want to back away out of fear or disappointment, but you want to give yourself an opportunity to be able to feel in, would I really love this? When I get into the daily nuts and bolts of this initiative, when I think about doing the daily nuts and bolts of this initiative, do I love it? And sometimes you have to physically get into it to be able to test it out. My daily nuts and bolts, this is a daily nuts and bolts. Right before this, I was writing out the training notes for next week's Facebook Live. That's my daily nuts and bolts. I interviewed somebody yesterday that were 2 new people actually that we're bringing on to our team because my company is expanding. That's my daily nuts and bolts. I love that. That's all part of building out a bigger, bolder dream that to the outside can look really risky. Now, let me say this. Any of you who are entrepreneurs, that's a remarkable step of boldness and risk. And there are daily nuts and bolts that go along with that initiative. And you want to make sure that you really enjoy whatever that daily routine looks like. It's one thing to imagine the completion, and there's the process along the way. You want to be in love with all of it, because if you're going to put everything that you've built up to this point on the line, you don't want to just go for something to get the end result. You want to love the whole process. You want to love the activity of it. And so, because there have been times, I tell you, when I have just hit walls with my business and I'm thinking, what the heck am I doing? It's like in the middle of the swamp and the alligators are still there and I haven't drained the swamp yet. But when I think about, when I thought about doing something different, it was like, what the heck else am I going to do? I can't help myself but do this. I love this. So you want, if that risky initiative, you want to be in love pretty much with all of it. Doesn't mean that you're going to love every single element of it, but when you think about the nuts and bolts of it, you want to fall in love, make sure that you are in love with the nuts and bolts of it, the daily activity. So begin to try it on. Do some experimenting with it. Number 4, talk your dream out with a trusted friend or mentor who has the ability to hold the space for possibility. Not somebody who's going to agree with all of the reasons why for you not to do it. Not somebody who's going to be the devil's advocate and point out all of the risks. Believe me, you know what those risks are. You don't need somebody else to list out the risks for you. Oftentimes it can be so helpful to just hear yourself talk it out loud. And then you've got the room to be able to tell whether or not you really want this or not. Oh, and by the way, I'm a week ahead with the masterclass. So of course we can, now that I've said it, but also that with the words go big, if we're not already a client, you and I will have a conversation if you'd like that, where I can hold the space for you and be your partner in believing during that conversation and just let you talk it out, let you hear yourself say it, to have somebody know whether you go for it or not, to know that you've got the ability to go for it. It is so powerful to have that partner in believing for you to just flesh out what that potential desire could be and to really hear the voice of inspired insight. Do I really love that? So that's number 4. And if you would love a conversation with me, if you're not already a client, to get help with that, put the words go big in the comment section and we'll also get you the training notes. So I think I got 3 things going on. I don't mean to confuse y'all, but we'll get you information for all of it. So Severina, just track my ramblings right now, and I'm kind of, offering everything along with the kitchen sink, but you can't have this kitchen sink because this house is going to be closed tomorrow. But definitely the training notes. If you want a conversation and you want information about my upcoming masterclass, we'll make sure that we get all of that to you. All right. Now, number 5, last one. Remember the origin of your desire. Remember that your desire is not your desire. That the whole purpose of your desire is to grow you into an even greater version of yourself. That desire for a greater risk, to put everything that you've created up to this point at risk, it's that in you that wants to discover more of who you are. When things are really good, when you look around and there's a sense of, all right, I've got things settled, it can be a really dangerous place to be. This is where people fall into complacency. This is where people fall into, it's good enough. And there's that in you that starts numbing. It's like you start numbing yourself to life because desire is built into you. It's part of our human nature to grow and expand and go beyond anything that we've ever known for ourselves before. When you cover that over with complacency, with good enough, it's like you're shutting off a part of yourself. It's like you're taking your light and you're dimming it down. I've got a dimmer switch over here on the wall, and we can turn the lights down by turning down the dimmer switch. When you turn down your desire, what you're doing is literally turning down the dimmer switch. When you understand that your desire is the start of your holy conversation, and you trust the origin of your desire, it better equips you to be able to face the potential risk and going through all, the 4 other steps of realizing, let yourself feel the possible regret if you don't go for it. Let yourself really entertain the rewards if it really does work out. Let yourself take 1 or 2 action steps in the direction of that possibility as an experiment. Let yourself even say it out loud to somebody else, a trusted friend, an advisor. Count me in for that. When you understand the origin of your desire, you become more willing to actually engage in the 4 previous steps, realizing there's a power that woke you up this morning. My sister didn't wake up this morning. My sister didn't wake up on July 1st. She drew her last breath at 12:04, June 30th, 2018. This is not to be morbid. It's to understand that this is not a dress rehearsal. Death is a constant companion. And the more we're able to wrap our arms around that and understand that it's built into the design and that there is a power that breathes you alive for a specific purpose. And that purpose is to discover just who you really are, how magnificent and how powerful and capable you are, and to grow this awareness of this infinite intelligence that wove you into existence. Then you're able to go through those other 4 steps. All right, we need to wrap this up. So if this is resonating with you at all, drop some thumbs up and some hearts and, oh my gosh, I love this, or not so much. I want to know what's serving you. I want to make sure that these weekly broadcasts are serving your needs to really support you in moving forward. And if you want to have a conversation with me about your dream and to get clear, do I want to go for this, or is the risk too great? Put the phrase "go big" in the comment section, and we'll get you the training notes. And then, we'll also let you know about the masterclass. I know next week for sure that's built into the automatic response, but we'll get you the information about the masterclass as well. All right. So quick recap. You have an idea. There's a part of you that goes, oh my gosh, I love that idea. And there's, oh my gosh, are you crazy? That's the most unreasonable, illogical, nonsense thing that you've ever thought about. You will put everything at risk. How do you know whether or not to go forward? Number 1, put it to the deathbed test. Ask yourself, if you don't do it, what do you stand to lose? What's the cost if you don't do it? Number 2, let yourself imagine what wild success would look like. Number 3, give yourself a time for it to experiment. Take some action steps. Put it on. Feel what it feels like to live into it on a daily basis. Number 4, allow yourself to speak it out loud to a trusted friend or advisor. Again, count me on that list. Grace, I would love to hear what's going on with you. I would love to hear what's going on with any of you all. Put the word "go big" in the comment section, and you and I will set up a time to have a talk. It will also give you the training notes, and we'll make sure you get the information about the masterclass. And number 5, understand the origin of your desire. And I will say that on every single broadcast. If we really got that, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. If we really understood the origin of our desire, put a period. That's it. We're done. You're good. You're going. You're going with it. It's an ongoing revelation of that the stream of life that woke you up this morning is always inviting you into a greater version of you and life and abundance by means of your desire that seems to put everything at risk. All right. So next week, I'm going to give you a 5-point test to know whether or not it's your ego or truly divine inspiration. So join me for that. And what else? I am Felicia Searcy. It is my joy to be your partner in believing. Your dream is my passion. All right, everybody. Look forward to seeing your comments and see you next week. Mwah. God bless.